Before we get started, a quick heads up. This content is meant purely for entertainment. Viewer discretion is advised. Imagine this. One of the most universally loved figures in entertainment. A person celebrated for decades of kindness, positivity, and uplifting others, walks onto a talk show expecting a friendly conversation. Instead, they find themselves under a relentless assault on their character. What happens next? We're talking about Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson, a man whose smile is infectious, whose generosity knows no bounds, who personally replies to fans, leaves life-changing tips for servers, and visits sick children without a camera in sight. Now, picture him sitting down on The View, expecting an engaging interview, only to discover that one of the hosts has come prepared, not with questions about his work, but with meticulously planned character attack. Joy Behar, armed with fabricated controversies and baseless accusations, spent half an hour targeting everything from Johnson's masculinity to his charitable work, his authenticity, even his political beliefs. This was no ordinary tense TV moment that gets smoothed over with a quick apology. This was a deliberate attempt to dismantle a man loved by millions. So, how does a man known for infinite patience and kindness respond when even grace reaches its limits? By the time Johnson walked off that stage, millions had witnessed something far more powerful than any movie fight scene. They had seen true strength, the courage to face cruelty without losing compassion, even for the person delivering it. The morning had started with buzzing excitement at the View studios. From production assistants to audience members to the hosts themselves, everyone felt the energy. This wasn't just a movie star appearing. It was The Rock, a cultural icon whose journey from $7 in his pocket to one of the world's highest-paid actors had inspired millions. Dwayne Johnson arrived radiating warmth, flashing that megawatt smile that could light up an arena, fresh from promoting his latest blockbuster, already smashing box office records. He seemed relaxed, energized, and ready to connect with viewers. His goal? To entertain, inspire, and share a story of hard work, gratitude, and resilience. He wore a simple, perfectly fitted suit that somehow made his imposing frame feel approachable rather than intimidating. There was a unique aura about him, a balance of confidence and humility that had earned him admiration across generations. What he couldn't have anticipated was the storm that awaited. Joy Behar had spent the previous evening crafting what she saw as a tough interview, not probing questions about his craft, achievements, or politics, but a calculated attempt to expose what she believed was a hidden, toxic side of Johnson. Her plan wasn't about insight, it was about attack. When Johnson entered the studio, the familiar warm lighting of The View glowed around him. The applause was deafening, not polite or obligatory, but genuine excitement for someone everyone admired. Cameras flashed, people cheered, energy crackling like static in the air. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Dwayne Johnson. Whoopi Goldberg's voice rang out, carrying true warmth and respect. Johnson waved, his presence instantly filling the studio. Just by being himself, he made people feel good. "Thank you so much for having me," he said, sliding into his chair with effortless ease. "Always great to be here with you ladies." And with that simple greeting, the stage was set, though none of them could have known just how intense the conversation would become. The other hosts, Sunny host, Sarah Haynes, Alyssa Farrah-Griffin, radiated genuine smiles and warm energy. Even Joy Behar seemed pleasant during the initial pleasantries, though sharp-eyed viewers might have caught a flicker of calculation in her eyes, a hint that the warmth was more performance than sincerity. "Dwayne," Whoopi began, following the usual script, "tell us about your new movie. I heard it's already breaking records." Johnson's enthusiasm was immediate and infectious. "You know, I'm incredibly grateful," he replied, and you could hear the sincerity in every word. "The fans have been amazing. Working with this cast has been a dream come true. We want to create something special, something families can enjoy together, action and heart in equal measure." "That's wonderful," Sarah chimed in, clearly thrilled to be across from someone she admired. "And I have to say, your social media posts about filming were hilarious. That video of you trying to fit into that tiny trailer had me laughing for days." Johnson laughed, a warm, contagious laugh that made everyone in the room smile. "Yeah, well, When you're 6 feet 5 inches and built like I am, even the biggest trailer feels like a dollhouse. But hey, that's part of the fun. You've got to be able to laugh at yourself. For the first several minutes, the conversation flowed naturally. Johnson spoke about his daughters with obvious devotion, his production company's commitment to diverse storytelling, and philosophy of taking roles that inspire rather than just make money. The audience hung on every word. Even the camera crew seemed more attentive than usual. This was the Dwayne Johnson everyone loved, authentic, humble, and effortlessly charismatic despite his astronomical success. But then, Joy Behar shifted in her seat, and the room's energy subtly changed. Anyone with experience in live television could sense it. A move from friendly chat to something darker. "Dwayne," Joy said, her tone stripped of warmth and edged with prosecutorial intensity, "I have to ask you about something that's been bothering me for quite a while." Johnson kept his composure, a product of years in the media spotlight, though there was a subtle tension in his posture, a silent signal that he had recognized the challenge ahead. "Sure, Joy," he replied carefully. "What's on your mind?" Joy leaned forward, her posture now assertive, almost confrontational. "I've been following your career very closely, and I have to say, I'm deeply concerned about the message you're sending to young people, especially young men." The other hosts exchanged uneasy glances. This topic hadn't been cleared with Johnson's team. It was an ambush, and the discomfort in the room was palpable. Whoopi raised an eyebrow. Sarah's expression showed genuine confusion. Try to anticipate where this could possibly lead. "I'm not sure I follow," Johnson said, his voice controlled but cautious. "What message are you referring to?" "This whole macho, muscle-bound, solve everything with violence persona." Joy pressed, her tone rising with each word. "Don't you think it's deeply problematic? Don't you think you're perpetuating toxic masculinity?" The studio fell silent. The audience, moments ago, buzzed with excitement, sensed something was very wrong. This wasn't the friendly interview they had come to see. Johnson's jaw tightened ever so slightly, but his voice remained calm and measured. "Joy, I think there might be a fundamental misunderstanding here. I've spent my entire career, my entire life, promoting positivity, hard work, and treating people with respect and dignity. Honestly, I'm not sure where this accusation is coming from." "Oh, please," Joy scoffed dismissively. "Every single movie you're in, you're the big tough guy who saved the day by punching someone or something. What kind of example is that setting for impressionable young boys?" Johnson's trademark smile dimmed slightly, but he maintained his composure, radiating the kind of patience only a lifetime of public scrutiny can forge. "Joy, I think you're drastically oversimplifying the characters I play," Johnson said, his voice calm but firm. "Most of my roles are about protecting family, standing up for what's right, overcoming obstacles through determination, perseverance, and yes, teamwork." He emphasized the last word lightly, but Joy's laugh cut through the room, hollow, sharp, dripping with contempt. "Come on, Dwayne, let's be honest. You're selling an image of masculinity that's outdated, regressive, and frankly dangerous. Young boys see you and think they have to be aggressive, dominating figures who solve problems with strength rather than emotional intelligence." The studio's atmosphere shifted. Tension became almost tangible. Sonny looked visibly uncomfortable. Sarah stared at her notes as if they could provide an escape route. Whoopi seemed to be calculating her next move, while Joy thrived on the unease she was creating. "And another thing," Joy continued, her voice building with intensity. "This whole people's champion persona you cultivate online, don't you think it's disingenuous? You're worth hundreds of millions, living in multiple mansions, flying private jets, and yet you try to relate to working-class people struggling to pay rent. Isn't that fake?" Johnson's hands, resting on the armrests, gripped them subtly. His voice stayed controlled, but there was steel beneath it now. "Joy, I grew up in a working-class family. My mother cleaned houses to put food on the table. My father was a professional wrestler who didn't always know where his next paycheck would come from. We were evicted multiple times. I know what struggle means, and I've never forgotten where I came from. I never will." Joy pressed on, seemingly energized by the growing tension. "That was then. This is now. You can't possibly understand what it's like for a single mother working 3 jobs just to make rent and buy groceries. No, you're right, Johnson replied quietly, his tone carrying quiet power. I can't live that experience anymore, but I can use my platform to amplify their stories, support organizations that help, and remind people their struggles matter. They're not alone. Joy rolled her eyes theatrically. Oh, here we go with the charity work. Another calculated PR move to make yourself look good. Something fundamental shifted in Johnson's demeanor. The easygoing charm remained, but underneath it was a competitor. The man who had risen from poverty to dominate multiple industries through sheer will and relentless determination. Joy, he said, his voice carrying weight that made the studio sit straighter. I'm not entirely sure what's prompted the sustained attack on my character, but I think we need to pump the brakes before this goes somewhere neither of us wants it to go. Attack? Joy laughed, a harsh, cutting sound. I'm just asking tough questions. Isn't that what journalism is about? Holding public figures accountable. The other hosts were visibly uneasy. Whoopi spoke with gentle urgency. Maybe we should redirect the conversation to something else. But Joy wasn't done. In fact, she seemed to take Whoopi's caution as license to escalate further. No, this is incredibly important. Dwayne, you built a carefully curated brand around being a perfect role model. But don't you think there's something deeply problematic about a man your size, with your influence, promoting physical strength and dominance as he answered to life's problems? Johnson leaned back, and for a moment, the studio fell completely silent, save for the hum of cameras and lights. When he spoke again, his voice was calm, measured, yet unmistakably final. Joy, I've spent my entire career inspiring people to become better versions of themselves, promoting education, emotional honesty, kindness, hard work, perseverance through adversity. If you look at my work, on screen and off, and only see violence or toxic masculinity, then I genuinely think that says more about your perspective than it does about my intentions. Joy's face flushed, but instead of reconsidering, she escalated. Oh, so now I'm a problem? I'm the one with a distorted perspective? That's rich. Coming from someone who makes tens of millions playing the same character over and over. The audience was silent, the earlier excitement replaced by discomfort. Sarah fidgeted nervously. Sonny stared at the table. Whoopi calculated how to salvage the spiraling conversation. Johnson remained composed, but subtle signs, the tightening around his eyes, deliberate breathing, revealed a man approaching his limit. Joy, he said, calm yet edged with unmistakable authority. There's been a fundamental misunderstanding here. I came on this show today to talk about my work, connect with your audience, share positivity, and hopefully make people smile. The room seemed to hold its breath, waiting to see if his patience would finally crack, or if he would stand unwavering in the face of relentless provocation. I'm genuinely not sure why you decided to turn this into a personal character assassination, Johnson said, his voice calm, measured, but heavy with meaning. Personal attack. Joy's voice jumped an octave, sharp and accusatory. I'm holding you accountable as a public figure. Someone has to. You walk around acting like you're this impossibly perfect human being. But what about the time you supported that politician with controversial views on women's reproductive rights? Johnson's eyebrows furrowed, a mix of genuine confusion and incredulity. I'm sorry, what are you referring to? I think you might have your facts significantly wrong. Don't play dumb with me. Joy snapped, her voice escalating with aggression. You know exactly what I mean. You endorsed someone who wanted to roll back women's rights, and then when it became politically inconvenient, you quietly distanced yourself. Johnson's posture shifted subtly, warning flashing beneath his calm exterior. Joy, I have never endorsed anyone who will harm women's rights. I have 3 daughters. Their future autonomy, their freedom, is more important to me than anything in this world. If you're going to make serious accusations like that, you better have your facts straight. The other hosts visibly recoiled. Whoopi looked mortified. Sarah shook her head in disbelief. Sonny stared, a mix of shock and frustration etched across her face. Facts, Joy said bitterly. The fact is, you're just another Hollywood hypocrite. You say one thing in interviews and do another when the cameras aren't rolling. You talk about authenticity, but you're as manufactured and calculated as they come. Johnson's hands gripped the armrest of his chair, knuckles whitening under the pressure. His voice dropped, quieter than before, but every word carried more weight than if he had shouted. Joy, I'm giving you one opportunity right now to walk back that accusation. I've been nothing but respectful to you and everyone on this show, despite your sustained, unprovoked hostility. But if you continue attacking my character and integrity based on false information, we have a serious problem. Instead of retreating, Joy leaned in, eyes gleaming with what seemed disturbingly like malicious satisfaction. Oh, what are you going to do? She taunted. Flex your muscles at me? Prove my point about toxic masculinity? Show everyone that when the big tough guy gets called out, he resorts to physical intimidation. The studio was silent. Every heartbeat seemed amplified. Even the camera operators held their breath. Johnson stared at her. The hurt was visible now. Not just frustration, not just anger, but profound disappointment. Disappointment that another human could wield cruelty so effortlessly. You know what, Joy, he said, voice barely above a whisper, yet carrying to every corner of the studio with perfect clarity. I've been in this business for over 2 decades. I've faced legitimate critics. People who didn't like my movies, who thought I wasn't a good actor, or that I played the same roles repeatedly. That's fine. That comes with being in the public eye. He paused, letting the weight of his words settle in the room. But what you're doing right now, he continued, voice raw with emotion, this isn't criticism. This isn't journalism or accountability or tough questioning. This is cruelty. Pure, calculated cruelty. You're sitting here on national television, making up stories about me, attacking my character with lies, systematically trying to destroy everything I built. And for what? What did I ever do to you to deserve this? Joy's expression faltered, a brief flicker of uncertainty, but her ego refused to yield. I'm just asking the tough questions, she shot back, voice sharp, hands gesturing wildly. No, Johnson said, shaking his head slowly, profound sadness in his eyes. Your job is to inform and entertain your audience. What you're doing is using your platform to spread lies, weaponize hatred against someone. For reasons I genuinely cannot comprehend, there's a fundamental difference. Whoopi finally intervened, her voice urgent. Maybe we should take a commercial break. No. Joy cut in sharply, her tone slicing to the attempt at rescue. The audience deserves to see who Dwayne Johnson really is when he doesn't get his way. When someone dares to challenge his carefully constructed image. Johnson looked first at Joy, then at the other hosts, and finally at the audience. People had come in excited, but were now watching something uncomfortable unfold before their eyes. You know, Joy, he said, voice calm yet heartbreakingly heavy. I feel sorry for you. I genuinely do. Because what you're doing, this sustained attack on someone who has done nothing to you, says nothing about me. It says everything about you. You're so consumed with tearing people down, so obsessed with finding the worst in everyone, that you can't see or acknowledge good anywhere. Oh, please. Joy scoffed dismissively. Save the amateur psychology lesson for someone who cares. Johnson didn't flinch. He continued, voice growing stronger, unwavering. I've spent my entire career lifting people up. I've worked with countless charities. I visited sick children in hospitals without cameras present. I've tried to make a positive difference every chance I get. I've tried to use whatever influence and platform I have to make the world even slightly better, Johnson said, his voice steady but charged with emotion. And you're sitting there in front of millions of people trying to destroy that. Why? Because it makes good television? Because it makes you look tough or uncompromising? Because tearing down someone universally loved will generate viral clips? Joy's face flushed, whether from anger, embarrassment, or the dawning realization that this had gone terribly wrong. It was impossible to tell. You're not the saint you pretend to be, Dwayne. Nobody is, she shot back. I've never claimed to be a saint, Johnson replied, his tone now carrying undeniable strength. I've made mistakes. I've had failures. I've been completely open about my struggles with depression, about my father's battles with addiction, about the challenges and darkness in my life. But I've tried to learn from those experiences. I've tried to become better. I've tried to be honest about my journey. He leaned forward slightly, rising in his chair, not in a threatening way, but with the quiet dignity of a man who had reached his absolute limit. But what you're doing here today, Joy, this isn't about making me better or holding me genuinely accountable. This is about you trying to drag someone down to make yourself feel bigger, more important, more relevant. And I will not be part of it anymore. So what? You're going to run away? Joy taunted, desperation creeping into her voice. Can't handle a little criticism? Johnson looked at her, eyes calm but filled with unmistakable pity. Joy, criticism would be saying you didn't like my last movie, questioning a business decision I made, or challenging me on an actual political position I've taken. What you've been doing for the last 30 minutes is character assassination based on fabricated lies. There's a fundamental difference. And if you genuinely can't see that distinction, then I feel sorry for you. The other hosts were frozen, staring at Joy with expressions ranging from disgust to embarrassment. Sonny looked appalled. Sarah seemed ashamed to be sitting at the same table. Whoopi appeared as if she wished she could vanish entirely. The audience sat in stunned silence, their excitement replaced by the weight of witnessing an attempted public humiliation. You know what the saddest part of all this is? Johnson continued, his voice heavy, commanding attention. You have this incredible platform. Millions of people watch this show. You could use it to highlight real issues, to bring attention to people who genuinely need help, to make a positive difference. Instead, you choose this. Baseless attacks. Manufactured outrage. Joy's mouth opened and closed, finally at a loss for words. A rare moment for someone whose career was built on speaking without pause. Johnson scanned the studio one last time. The mortified hosts, the shocked crew, the audience whose excitement had turned to disbelief. I think we're done here, he said quietly. Those 4 words landed like a verdict. Silence stretched, thick and electric. Johnson reached down slowly and unclipped his microphone. The metallic click echoed through the studio like a gunshot, signaling the end. Every movement deliberate, every step dignified. And then Dwayne Johnson, The Rock, the people's champion, one of the most beloved figures in entertainment, stood and walked off the set. Thunderous applause erupted from the audience, a collective acknowledgement of courage, composure, and integrity in the face of unprovoked cruelty. Joy Behar remained seated, stunned, finally realizing that even infinite patience has limits. And cruelty, as history often shows, says far more about the person inflicting it than the target who walks away with dignity intact. The cameras continued rolling for several tense seconds, capturing Joy sitting motionless at the table. Her earlier confidence had evaporated, replaced by something that looked disturbingly like shock. The other hosts were frozen, unsure how to proceed, how to salvage what had just become one of the most uncomfortable moments in daytime television history. Backstage, Johnson was immediately surrounded by his team, publicists, managers, assistants, all speaking at once, asking if he was okay, apologizing for what had just happened, trying to assess the fallout. But Johnson waved them off gently. His composure was remarkably intact, even after enduring relentless hostility. I'm fine, he said quietly. I said what needed to be said. There's nothing to apologize for. Meanwhile, his publicist was already fielding calls, her phone lighting up with messages from entertainment outlets, news organizations, and concerned friends. The clips were spreading like wildfire. Within minutes, Dwayne Johnson was trending worldwide, millions sharing the footage's dignified exit and Joy's relentless attacks. On set, as the show cut to an emergency commercial break, Whoopi turned to Joy, her face a mix of anger and profound disappointment. What the hell was that, Joy? She asked, voice tight. We don't ambush guests like that. We don't attack people with lies. What were you thinking? Joy attempted a weak defense. I was just asking tough questions. Those weren't questions, Sonny interrupted, voice shaking. That was character assassination. You attacked a man who's done nothing but good in this world, and you did it with lies and manufactured controversies. Sarah nodded, clearly shaken. I'm honestly ashamed to have been sitting at this table. Dwayne Johnson is a genuinely good person, and you try to destroy him for no reason. When the show returned from commercial, the atmosphere was completely different. Whoopi addressed the camera with unusual gravity. "We want to apologize to Dwayne Johnson and to our audience for what just occurred. That is not the kind of conversation we want on this show, and it does not represent our values." Joy sat silently, her earlier aggression replaced by dawning comprehension, finally realizing just how badly she had miscalculated. Within hours, the incident dominated every entertainment news cycle. Think pieces analyzed the exchange, overwhelmingly supporting Johnson and condemning Joy's approach. Media critics hailed it as a watershed moment, proof that audiences were tired of manufactured conflict and craved genuine connection. Celebrities rallied around Johnson. Kevin Hart posted a message praising his friend's grace under pressure. Emily Blunt shared stories of his kindness on set. Even people who had never met him felt compelled to defend someone who consistently represented the best of public figures. While the immediate ratings spiked, viewers eager to witness the confrontation, the long-term consequences were clear. Sponsors quietly expressed concern. Complaints flooded the network, and Joy Behar became the center of a controversy entirely of her own making. For Dwayne Johnson, the moment became another testament to his character. He never attacked Joy publicly, never sought revenge or retribution. When asked about the incident later, he said simply, "Sometimes people are dealing with their own pain, and it comes out in unfortunate ways. I hope she finds peace." Grace in the face of cruelty. That response only made people admire him more. The confrontation became a case study in media classes, an example of how not to conduct an interview, and how to maintain dignity under unjust attack. Students watched in awe as Johnson defended himself with truth, without ever stooping to lies or malice, choosing his mental health and self-respect over engagement in toxicity. The lesson was clear. Sometimes the strongest thing you can do isn't to fight back harder. It's to walk away with your head held high. And Dwayne Johnson did exactly that, proving once again why he's called the people's champion. Not because he never faced adversity, but because of the way he handled it when it came.